The first thing Max Harper noticed was the smell, an odd metallic tang in the air that reminded him of the time his microwave tried to eat a spoon. His brain, still foggy from a restless sleep, struggled to process the unfamiliar scent. It wasn't until his bleary eyes adjusted to the dim light filtering through his apartment blinds that he saw her. She stood by the window, silhouetted against the pale morning light. Her outline was both humanoid and not. The alien woman, because what else could she be, had skin that shimmered faintly, like the surface of a moonlit lake, casting subtle ripples of teal and silver as she moved. Her hair cascaded down her back, a liquid-like flow of starlight that seemed to shift colors, as if reflecting a sky he couldn't see. Most unsettling of all was the third eye on her forehead, calmly surveying the room like a bouncer at a nightclub. Max blinked, hoping the apparition would disappear. It didn't. "Okay," he said aloud, his voice cracking. "This is fine. I'm still dreaming. Any second now, the flying purple elephants will show up, and we'll all have a good laugh." The woman, or alien, or hallucination, turned to face him. Her expression was impassive, but her three eyes tracked him with unnerving precision. The silence stretched. Max cleared his throat. Hi. Welcome to Earth. Can I help you? Coffee? Tea? Directions to Area 51? The alien tilted her head slightly as if considering his offer. When she spoke, her voice was a melodic hum, like wind chimes caught in a magnetic storm. "Maxwell Harper." Max froze. "Oh, great. You know my name. That's not terrifying at all." "You have been chosen," she continued, her tone serene but utterly devoid of context. "For what? Is this about my student loans? Because I swear I'm on a payment plan." The alien didn't laugh. Instead, she raised a hand, and Max felt a strange sensation ripple through the room, a tingling, like static electricity building in the air. The coffee mug he'd been clutching slipped from his grasp and hung midair, suspended as if the laws of gravity had taken a coffee break. His mouth opened and closed, like a fish gasping for air. "Whoa! Okay! Cool trick! Love the anti-gravity thing! But maybe don't mess with my caffeine supply, lady. That's sacred." She lowered her hand, and the mug floated gently back to the table. "You are not to leave this place," she said, her tone as calm as if she were discussing the weather. "Not to leave?" Max repeated, his voice pitching higher. "Like ever?" "What do you mean? I have a job. Not a great one, but it pays for this place. Also, food. You know, human necessities." The alien raised an eyebrow, her third eye doing something resembling an eye roll, and gestured vaguely around the room. "This structure is now a containment zone. It is critical that you remain within it for the foreseeable future." Max stared at her, then at his living room. The sagging couch, the mismatched furniture, the framed poster of a B-list sci-fi movie he couldn't remember buying. It didn't exactly scream galactic importance. He let out a nervous laugh. "Right, containment zone. Because this IKEA catalog reject is clearly the centerpiece of the universe. Look, Miss, Leora," she supplied, her tone still maddeningly neutral. "Leora. Lovely name. Very cosmic. Listen, I think you might have the wrong guy. I'm not exactly what you'd call containment-worthy. I'm just a guy with a 9-to-5, a Netflix subscription, and a deep fear of spiders." Leora didn't respond. Instead, she stepped closer, her glowing skin casting faint patterns on the walls. Max instinctively backed up, bumping into the kitchen counter. She stopped a few feet away and looked at him as if assessing a particularly disappointing experiment. "This location emits an anomalous energy signature," she explained, her three eyes narrowing. "You are the epicenter. Until the source of the anomaly is stabilized, you must remain here." "Anomaly? Epicenter? Lady, I'm just trying to make it to the weekend without burning my toast. There's no way I'm the source of anything except maybe bad life choices." Leora's expression didn't change, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes. Amusement, maybe, or pity. "Your cooperation is non-negotiable," she said simply. Max threw up his hands. Fantastic. So I'm a prisoner now. Cool. Love that for me. Are you at least going to explain what's going on? Or is this one of those mysterious alien overlord situations where I just sit quietly and hope for the best? Leora's lips twitched. A near smile, perhaps? You may ask your questions, she said, but answers will be provided only when deemed appropriate. Of course, Max muttered. Wouldn't want to spoil the big reveal. Okay, question number 1. Do you have a spaceship? Because if you're staying here, parking might be an issue. Leora ignored him and turned her attention to a small device she pulled from somewhere within the flowing fabric of her outfit. The device, which looked like a cross between a smartphone and a lava lamp, emitted a soft hum as she waved it around the room. Max watched, torn between fascination and irritation. Question number 2, he continued, undeterred. Do you eat? Because I've got leftovers, but fair warning, they're probably more lethal than whatever you're guarding me from. Leora paused and glanced at him, her third eye fixing him with a look that screamed, "Please stop talking." Max sighed and slumped into a chair. Great. My life was already a dumpster fire, and now it's an interstellar containment zone. Can't wait to explain this to my landlord. As the alien continued her inscrutable scans, Max leaned back and muttered to himself, I should have called in sick today. But deep down, beneath the layers of sarcasm and disbelief, a flicker of curiosity sparked. Who, or what, was Leora really? And why had she come to him, of all people? He had no idea, but one thing was clear. His life would never be the same again. And somehow, despite the absurdity of it all, he wasn't entirely sure he minded. Max Harper wasn't sure what was more unsettling. The fact that an alien was standing in his living room, scanning his toaster with a device that looked suspiciously like a kaleidoscope, or the fact that he was starting to get used to it. It had been 20 minutes since Leora declared his home a containment zone. 20 long minutes of her pacing back and forth, muttering incomprehensible phrases in a language that sounded like someone trying to gargle marbles. Max, meanwhile, was parked on his lumpy couch, trying to figure out if this was all some elaborate prank. So, he ventured, breaking the silence, are you, reporting back to your mothership or something? Because if this is a first contact situation, I'm pretty sure you're supposed to give me a flag or a medal, maybe a t-shirt that says, I met an alien, and all I got was this lousy containment zone. Leora didn't look up. She was now crouched in front of his microwave, her device emitting faint beeps that seemed to echo off the walls. Silence, she said, her voice calm but commanding. Silence? Max echoed. You waltz into my house, take over my kitchen, and now you're telling me to be quiet? Lady, I'm not a fan of your bedside manner. Leora straightened and turned to face him, her 3 eyes narrowing in unison. Maxwell Harper, she began, her tone as serious as a court summons. Your flippant demeanor is irrelevant. The anomaly must be contained. Flippant? That's a bit harsh, Max said, crossing his arms. I prefer charmingly irreverent. Leora ignored him and stepped closer, the shimmering aura around her casting faint reflections on the walls. You emit a unique energy signature, she said, her tone shifting to something almost clinical. This signature is not of earthly origin. It has drawn the attention of entities that threaten the balance of interstellar stability. Max blinked. Right, interstellar stability, because obviously, that's something I'm deeply involved in. Lady, I work in data entry. The closest I've come to threatening stability is double-clicking too fast in Excel. This is not a jest, Leora said sharply. Your existence has become a beacon, attracting forces far beyond your comprehension. If left unchecked, this could lead to catastrophic consequences. Max raised an eyebrow. Catastrophic consequences? For who? Me? Earth? The galaxy? All of the above, Leora replied, her gaze unwavering. Max stared at her, waiting for the punchline. When none came, he let out a nervous laugh. Okay, let's say I believe you. Big if, by the way, why me? I'm nobody special. There's got to be someone better suited for this cosmic drama. Someone with, I don't know, actual skills? Leora's expression softened. Just a fraction, but enough for Max to notice. The anomaly chose you, she said simply. Max ran a hand through his hair, his frustration bubbling over. Chosen by an anomaly. That's just great. Do I at least get a say in this? Because I feel like my consent wasn't exactly considered. You do not, Leora said without hesitation. Of course not, Max muttered. He slumped back against the couch, letting out a long sigh. So, what now? Am I just supposed to sit here while you poke around my appliances, or is there an actual plan? Leora hesitated, a rare flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. The plan is under development, she admitted. Max's eyebrows shot up. Under development? You came all the way across the galaxy, turned my house into your personal lab, and you don't even have a plan? What are you, an interstellar freelancer? Your sarcasm is noted, Leora said, her third eye rolling in a way that was both unsettling and oddly human. The anomaly is unprecedented. Adjustments are required. Max leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. Okay, let me get this straight. You're here to stop some big cosmic disaster, but you don't know how to do it yet. Meanwhile, I'm stuck in my house with an alien who doesn't understand the concept of personal space. Did I miss anything? Leora tilted her head, considering his summary. That is, accurate. Max let out a dry laugh. Perfect, just perfect. Guess I'll cancel my weekend plans. Oh wait, I can't, because I'm apparently the universe's most wanted anomaly. Leora studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then, to Max's surprise, she stepped closer and lowered her voice. You are frightened, she said softly. Max opened his mouth to protest, but the words caught in his throat. Was he frightened? Of course he was. But admitting that felt like giving up what little control he had left. I'm not scared, he lied. I'm annoyed. Big difference. Leora's lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile. Your humor is a defense mechanism, she observed, a peculiar trait of your species. Yeah, well, it beats screaming into the void, Max muttered. They fell into an uneasy silence, the weight of the situation settling between them. Leora turned back to her device, resuming her scans with methodical precision. Max watched her for a moment, then sighed and leaned back against the couch. Fine, he said. If I'm stuck here, I might as well make the best of it. But I've got one condition. Leora paused and looked at him, her three eyes narrowing slightly. What condition? Max gestured to the microwave. You stop messing with my stuff. Seriously, that thing already hates me. I don't need it going full Skynet. For the first time since she arrived, Leora let out a soft, melodic laugh. It was brief, but it caught Max off guard. Your request is acceptable, she said, her tone lighter than before. Max allowed himself a small smile. Great. Now, how about we order some pizza? I feel like intergalactic negotiations go better with pepperoni. Leora raised an eyebrow. Pizza? Trust me, Max said. It's a human thing. You'll love it. As Leora returned to her work, Max felt a flicker of something unexpected. Hope. Maybe, just maybe, he could survive this bizarre ordeal. After all, if he could make an alien laugh, anything was possible. By the third day of his unexpected house arrest, Max Harper had developed a routine. It wasn't a great routine, but it was a routine nonetheless. Wake up. Argue with Leora about the thermostat. She insisted on keeping the apartment at a comfortable 58 degrees, and then spend the day trying to figure out if he was losing his mind. The alien woman was relentless in her work, scanning everything from his ceiling fan to the lone potted cactus he'd been neglecting for months. Her mysterious device chirped and beeped at random intervals, filling the silence with an oddly musical rhythm. Max, for his part, tried to maintain some semblance of normalcy. Is this really necessary? He asked one morning, as Leora aimed her scanner at his fridge. I mean, it's just a fridge. Unless you're detecting some interstellar crime syndicate hiding behind my expired yogurt. Leora didn't look up. Every object within this structure could contribute to the anomaly, she said, her tone clinical. I must examine them all. Max leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. Right, because my leftover Chinese food is clearly a threat to galactic stability. You would be surprised, Leora replied without missing a beat. Max raised an eyebrow. Was that a joke? Leora's expression didn't change, but there was a faint twinkle in her eyes. An observation, she said simply. Well, congratulations, Max said. You're officially funnier than my last roommate, although to be fair, he once set the microwave on fire trying to heat up a Pop-Tart. Leora's device let out a particularly loud chirp, drawing her attention back to her work. Max sighed and flopped onto the couch, staring at the ceiling. So, he said after a moment, are you going to tell me what you found? Or is this one of those need-to-know basis situations? Leora hesitated, her fingers hovering over her device. The anomaly's properties are complex, she said finally. It defies conventional analysis. Great, Max muttered. I'm not even interesting in a normal way. I'm just a walking cosmic headache. Leora glanced at him, her expression unreadable. You underestimate the significance of your condition, she said. The anomaly's energy signature is unlike anything recorded in interstellar databases. Its potential implications are vast. Implications for what? Max pressed. World domination? Intergalactic war? A reality TV show called Earth's Weirdest Human? Leora didn't answer. Instead, she turned her attention back to her scanner, her focus unwavering. Max sighed and sat up. You know, if you're going to keep me cooped up in here, the least you could do is explain what's going on. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep asking questions until your third eye starts twitching. Leora's gaze flicked to him, her lips curving into the faintest hint of a smile. Your persistence is noted, she said. Thanks, Max said. I like to think it's one of my more annoying qualities. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The room was filled with the soft hum of Leora's scanner and the distant sound of traffic outside. Max watched her, trying to piece together the puzzle of who, or what, she really was. Finally, Leora set her device aside and turned to face him. The anomaly is not a singular phenomenon, she said. It is a convergence of energies from multiple dimensions. Its presence here is both unprecedented and unstable. Max blinked. Multiple dimensions? Like alternate realities? Parallel universes? Correct, Leora said. The anomaly acts as a nexus point, connecting this location to other planes of existence. This connection is what has drawn the attention of external entities. Max stared at her, his mind racing. So you're saying my apartment is some kind of interdimensional hotspot, like a cosmic Grand Central Station? In essence, yes, Leora said. The energy signature you emit serves as a focal point for these connections. Max ran a hand through his hair, letting out a low whistle. Well, that explains why my rent is so high. Leora tilted her head, her expression puzzled. Your financial arrangements are irrelevant to the anomaly. It was a joke, Max said. Never mind. So what happens if we don't, stabilize this thing? Does my apartment explode? Or do we just get overrun by a bunch of interdimensional tourists? Leora's expression darkened. The consequences would be far more severe. The instability could result in a dimensional collapse, causing irreversible damage to this plane of existence. Max's stomach dropped. Oh, that's bad. Extremely, Leora said. Max rubbed his temples, trying to process the weight of her words. Okay, so how do we fix it? What do we do? Leora hesitated, her gaze shifting to the scanner. The solution is not yet clear, she admitted, but the first step is to contain the anomaly and prevent further interference. Max frowned. Interference? You mean those entities you mentioned? Precisely, Leora said. Their presence here would accelerate the destabilization process. It is imperative that they are kept at bay. Max leaned back against the couch, his mind spinning. This just keeps getting better and better, he muttered. First, I'm a prisoner in my own home. Now, I'm apparently the guy standing between Earth and total dimensional collapse. Your role is critical, Leora said. You must remain vigilant. Yeah, sure, Max said with a bitter laugh. I'll just add save the universe to my to-do list, right between take out the trash and pretend I have my life together. Leora's gaze softened, and for a brief moment, she looked almost human. You are not alone in this, she said quietly. Max glanced at her, surprised by the sincerity in her voice. Well, he said after a moment, that's comforting. I think. They sat in silence for a while, the weight of their shared predicament hanging heavy in the air. Max still didn't fully understand what was happening, but one thing was clear. His life had taken a turn he never could have imagined. And somehow, despite the chaos and uncertainty, he felt a flicker of determination. After all, if the universe thought he was worth saving, who was he to argue? Max Harper had always considered himself a pretty adaptable guy. You had to be when your upstairs neighbors hosted drum circle practice every Thursday, and your job involved deciphering cryptic emails from a boss who thought punctuation was optional. But even he had his limits, and waking up to find an alien woman living in his house and turning his life into a low-budget sci-fi thriller was testing those limits. Still, 3 days into this madness, Max found himself slipping into a strange rhythm. He had grown accustomed to the hum of Leora's bizarre devices, her precise movements, and her unrelenting focus. He wasn't sure if it was comforting or concerning that he now barely flinched when her third eye darted open to scan him mid-sentence. This particular morning, however, the illusion of normalcy shattered when a loud, metallic clang reverberated through the apartment. What the? Max bolted upright from the couch, his heart pounding. Leora, who had been meticulously inspecting a coffee mug with one of her tools, froze, her eyes, all 3 of them, locked on the front door. They've arrived, she said, her voice sharp. Max blinked. Who's they? Please tell me it's the pizza guy. Leora ignored him, rising to her full height. Her shimmering aura intensified, casting an otherworldly glow across the room. She extended her hand, and a small crystalline device materialized in her palm. Max's jaw dropped. Okay, that's new. Do I get one of those, or is this a bring-your-own-alien tech situation? Silence, Leora hissed, her gaze fixed on the door. Before Max could retort, the metallic clang sounded again, followed by a low, guttural hum that seemed to vibrate through the walls. The air grew heavy, charged with an energy that made Max's skin prickle. Leora? He said, his voice trembling. This doesn't feel like a good time for a dramatic pause. They are attempting to breach the containment zone, Leora said, her tone grim. Prepare yourself. Max let out a nervous laugh. Prepare myself? For what? I don't even know what's out there. Is this a hide-under-the-bed situation or a heroic last stand kind of thing? Leora didn't answer. Instead, she moved toward the door with a grace that was both elegant and unnervingly predatory. She pressed her crystalline device against the wall, and a shimmering, translucent barrier sprang to life, covering the doorway. Max stared at the barrier, his mouth agape. Okay, that's cool, terrifying but cool. The hum grew louder, and the door shuddered as if something massive was pressing against it. Max felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. Leora, he said, his voice rising. I really think you should explain what's going on before I have a full-blown panic attack. Leora glanced over her shoulder, her expression unreadable. Interdimensional entities, she said simply. Max blinked. Interdimensional entities? That's all you've got? You're going to have to be a little more specific. Are we talking ghostly apparitions, tentacled monstrosities, or... Before he could finish, the door burst open with a deafening crash. The barrier flared brilliantly, holding firm, but the force of the impact sent a shockwave through the room. Max stumbled backward, his heart racing. Okay, tentacled monstrosities it is. Great, fantastic. Just what I needed to spice up my week. Through the shimmering barrier, he caught a glimpse of the intruders. They weren't tentacled exactly, but they weren't comforting either. Their forms shifted and flickered, as if they couldn't decide what shape to take. One moment, they resembled towering humanoids with elongated limbs. The next, they dissolved into swirling masses of light and shadow. Max swallowed hard. So, any chance we can talk this out? Maybe offer them some coffee? I've got a French press somewhere. Leora ignored his babbling, her focus entirely on the intruders. She raised her crystalline device, and a series of intricate, glowing symbols appeared in the air around her. The symbols pulsed with energy, forming a protective dome that enveloped her and Max. The entities pressed against the barrier, their forms writhing and shifting. Their movements were erratic, almost frantic, as if they were desperate to reach whatever was inside. Max's voice was barely a whisper. Why are they so interested in me? I'm just a guy, a boring average guy. You are the Nexus, Leora said, her tone firm. Your energy is what they seek. Without it, their connection to this dimension will collapse. Awesome, Max muttered. I always wanted to be popular with interdimensional creeps. The barrier flared again as the entities redoubled their efforts. Leora's crystalline device pulsed with light, and the symbols around her shimmered with renewed intensity. I cannot hold them off indefinitely, she said. We must strengthen the containment field. Max stared at her, his mind racing. Strengthen it? How? I don't even know what you're doing. You must focus, Leora said. The anomaly resides within you. You can channel its energy to stabilize the field. Max's eyes widened. Channel its energy? I don't even know how to use a power drill. How am I supposed to channel interdimensional energy? Leora stepped closer, her gaze piercing. You must trust yourself. The anomaly chose you for a reason. Max opened his mouth to protest, but the look in Leora's eyes silenced him. Despite the chaos around them, there was a calm certainty in her expression, as if she truly believed he was capable of this. Taking a deep breath, Max closed his eyes and tried to focus. He had no idea what he was doing, but he figured it couldn't hurt to try. At first, nothing happened. The hum of the barrier and the growls of the entities filled his ears, and he felt as useless as ever. But then, a faint warmth began to spread through his chest. It was subtle at first, like the flicker of a candle, but it grew steadily stronger. Good, Leora said, her voice steady. Now direct it toward the field. Max concentrated, imagining the warmth flowing from him into the barrier. To his astonishment, the shimmering dome around them began to glow brighter. The entities recoiled slightly, their forms flickering erratically. It's working, Max said, a mix of awe and disbelief in his voice. Maintain your focus, Leora said. With renewed determination, Max channeled more energy into the field. The barrier pulsed with light, pushing the entities back. One by one, they began to dissolve, their forms disintegrating into wisps of light and shadow. Finally, the last of the entities vanished, leaving the room eerily silent. Max collapsed onto the couch, his chest heaving. Well, he said between breaths, that was something. Leora lowered her device, her aura dimming slightly. You performed admirably, she said. Max let out a weak laugh. Admirably. I think I just had an out-of-body experience. Can we call it a day now? Leora's expression softened, and for the first time Max thought he saw a hint of pride in her eyes. Rest, she said. You've earned it. As Max closed his eyes, exhaustion overtaking him, one thought lingered in his mind. Maybe, just maybe, he wasn't as ordinary as he'd always believed. When Max woke up the next morning, he had two immediate thoughts. The first was that his body felt like it had been run over by a truck, which, given the interdimensional light show from the night before, wasn't entirely surprising. The second was that his kitchen smelled like burnt toast and ozone. He groaned, sitting up on the couch and squinting toward the source of the smell. Leora was at the stove, her third eye glowing faintly as she examined the toaster with an intensity that suggested she was trying to unlock the secrets of the universe. "Please tell me you didn't just weaponize my toaster," Max said, his voice raspy. Leora glanced at him, her expression as unreadable as ever. "I am calibrating the thermal output," she said. "Thermal output?" Max repeated, dragging himself to his feet. "It's a toaster, not a fusion reactor. You put bread in, toast comes out, end of story." "The device's inefficiency is troubling," Leora said, frowning at the toaster as if it had personally insulted her. Max shuffled into the kitchen, grabbing a mug and pouring himself a cup of coffee. "Inefficiency, huh? Welcome to Earth. Half our gadgets barely work, and the other half break as soon as the warranty expires." Leora didn't respond, but her third eye swiveled to scan the toaster one last time before she set it down with an air of reluctant defeat. Max took a sip of his coffee, eyeing her over the rim of his mug. "So, are we going to talk about what happened last night, or are we just going to pretend it was a weird fever dream?" Leora's gaze shifted to him, her expression serious. "The breach was a significant escalation," she said. "The entities will not stop. They are drawn to the anomaly, and by extension, to you." Max groaned, setting his mug on the counter. "Great. I'm basically a walking cosmic magnet. Do I at least get a cool superhero name out of this? Like the Nexus Dude or something?" Leora tilted her head, considering him. "Humor is your defense mechanism," she observed. "Yeah, well, it's either that or cry into my cereal," Max said. "So what's the plan? Do we build a bigger barrier? Set traps? Call in reinforcements?" Leora hesitated, her gaze distant. "The anomaly's influence is spreading," she said. "The containment measures I've employed are temporary. To stabilize the situation, we must locate the source of the disturbance." Max frowned. "The source? You mean it's not just me?" "You are the focal point," Leora said. "But the anomaly's origin lies elsewhere. It is likely tied to an event or object that created the initial dimensional breach." Max rubbed his temples, trying to wrap his head around her words. "Okay, so how do we find it? Is there some kind of cosmic treasure map we can follow?" Leora's lips twitched in what might have been a smile. "Not a map," she said, "but there are traces, residual energy signatures that can lead us to the source." Max sighed. "And I'm guessing you're going to need my help with this, huh?" "You are integral to the process," Leora said. "Of course I am," Max muttered. "Why can't I ever just be the guy who stays home and watches TV while the heroes save the world?" Leora ignored his grumbling, pulling out one of her crystalline devices. She tapped a series of glowing symbols, and a holographic display flickered to life. Max stared at the intricate patterns of light and energy, feeling both awed and completely out of his depth. "This is the anomaly's energy field," Leora explained, pointing to a swirling cluster of lights at the center of the display. "It is unstable, but its fluctuations suggest a point of origin within this sector." Max squinted at the hologram, trying to make sense of it. "Okay, but what does that mean in English? Are we talking a few blocks away, or are we taking a road trip to Area 51? Leora gave him a pointed look. "The source is within your immediate vicinity," she said. "Possibly even within this structure." Max blinked. "Wait, you're saying the thing causing all this chaos is here, in my apartment?" "It is a possibility," Leora said. Max looked around his cluttered living room, his gaze falling on the coffee table, the shelves of mismatched books, and the pile of laundry he'd been meaning to deal with for weeks. "Well, that's just great. I always knew my apartment was a disaster, but I didn't think it was dimensionally unstable." Leora's third eye flickered as she scanned the room. "We must investigate further," she said. "Fine," Max said, setting down his coffee. "But if it turns out the source of the anomaly is my microwave, I'm blaming you for jinxing it. They began combing through the apartment, Leora methodically scanning every object, while Max followed behind her, trying not to feel completely useless. "Hey, what about this?" Max asked, holding up a chipped snow globe he'd picked up at a garage sale years ago. Leora glanced at it, her expression unimpressed. "Unlikely," she said. Max shrugged, setting it back down. "You never know. Maybe the anomaly's just a big fan of tacky souvenirs." Hours passed, and their search turned up nothing. Max was beginning to think the whole thing was a wild goose chase when Leora's scanner let out a sharp, piercing beep. She froze, her eyes narrowing. "There," she said, pointing to the corner of the room. Max followed her gaze, his stomach sinking. Leora? That's just my old gaming console. Are you telling me that's the source of the anomaly?" Leora moved closer, her scanner glowing brighter as she approached the console. "The energy signature is concentrated here," she said. Max stared at the console in disbelief. "You're kidding. I mean, sure, it glitches out sometimes, but I didn't think it was literally breaking reality." Leora ignored him, her focus entirely on the device. She reached out and placed her hand on it, her third eye glowing brightly. The room was suddenly filled with a low hum, and Max felt a strange vibration under his feet. The console began to glow faintly, its surface shimmering like liquid metal. "Well, that's not ominous," Max muttered. Leora withdrew her hand, her expression grim. "This device is a conduit," she said. "Its presence here is no coincidence." Max ran a hand through his hair, trying to process her words. "Okay, so what do we do? Destroy it? Unplug it? Offer it a firmware update?" Leora's gaze was unwavering. "We must neutralize its connection to the anomaly," she said. "But doing so will not be simple. The energies involved are volatile and unpredictable." Max sighed, rubbing his temples. "Of course they are. Why would anything about this be easy?" Despite his exasperation, Max felt a flicker of determination. He didn't fully understand what was happening, but he knew one thing for certain. Whatever this anomaly was, he was going to see it through to the end. Even if it meant saying goodbye to his favorite gaming console. Max sat cross-legged on the floor, staring at his ancient gaming console as if it had just confessed to murder. The console, innocuous and dusty mere hours ago, now pulsed with an eerie light. It cast strange, shifting shadows across the room, each flicker of light carrying the unsettling suggestion that this was no ordinary piece of outdated technology. "Okay, Leora," Max said, scratching his head. "Explain this to me like I'm 5. Why is my console glowing? And more importantly, why is it glowing now?" Leora crouched beside him, her crystalline scanner humming as she swept it over the console. Her third eye remained fixed on the device, unblinking and intense. "The energy signature has fully activated," she said. "This object is no longer dormant. It is responding to the anomaly within you." Max groaned, running his hands down his face. "Great. So now my gaming console has a crush on me. Do I have to buy it dinner first, or can we skip to the part where we fix this mess?" Leora shot him a withering look. "This is no time for frivolity, Max Harper." "Frivolity is my default setting," Max shot back. "Besides, if I don't laugh, I might actually freak out, and I'm pretty sure you don't want to see me in full-on meltdown mode." She didn't reply, her attention returning to the console. "This device is acting as a bridge," she said. "It connects this dimension to others. Its activation is accelerating the anomaly's destabilization." Max's stomach dropped. "Accelerating? That sounds bad. Like end-of-the-world bad." "It is concerning," Leora admitted, her tone unusually hesitant. "Concerning?" Max repeated, his voice rising. "That's what you're going with? Not catastrophic or apocalyptic?" Leora's expression softened ever so slightly. "It is not yet irreversible," she said. Max sighed, leaning back against the couch. "Okay, so how do we stop it? Do we smash it? Throw it into a black hole? Sacrifice it to the gods of obsolete tech?" Leora shook her head. Destruction is not an option, she said. The energy contained within would be released uncontrollably, with devastating consequences. We must deactivate it carefully. Max gestured at the console. Fine. Deactivate away. You're the alien genius here. I cannot do this alone, Leora said, her gaze locking onto his. The anomaly is tied to you. You must assist me. Max groaned. Why is it always me? Can't we call in a specialist? Maybe some intergalactic IT guy who knows how to handle this stuff. There is no time, Leora said firmly. Max let out a dramatic sigh, but pushed himself upright. All right, fine, what do I need to do? Please tell me it doesn't involve anything that might fry my brain. Your mind is integral to the process, Leora said, completely ignoring his plea. Max winced. Of course it is. Why not? Leora moved to the center of the room, gesturing for Max to join her. She placed the console on the floor between them, its glow casting strange patterns on their faces. Sit, she instructed. Max obeyed, though he couldn't resist muttering, If this ends with me as a drooling vegetable, I'm haunting you. Leora didn't dignify that with a response. She extended her crystalline device, which emitted a soft hum as it created a field of shimmering light around the console. Symbols appeared within the field, their intricate patterns shifting and pulsing like a living organism. Max stared at the symbols, his anxiety mounting. Leora? Those glyphs look a lot like the ones from last night. Are we sure this is safe? It is necessary, she said simply. Not exactly reassuring, Max muttered. Leora reached out and placed her hands on the console. You must focus, she said. Clear your mind of distractions. Clear my mind? Max repeated. You do realize my mind is basically a 24/7 carnival, right? Then silence the carnival, Leora said, her tone leaving no room for argument. Max closed his eyes and took a deep breath, trying to block out his racing thoughts. For a moment, he felt nothing but the faint hum of the energy field. Then, slowly, he became aware of a warmth spreading through his chest, a sensation he recognized from the night before. Good, Leora said softly. Now channel that energy into the console. Max hesitated, unsure of how to channel anything, but as he focused on the warmth, he felt it begin to flow outward, like a current moving through him. The console responded immediately, its glow intensifying. The symbols within the energy field began to shift, aligning themselves in intricate patterns. Max felt a strange connection to the console, as if it were an extension of himself. Keep going, Leora urged. Max gritted his teeth, concentrating harder. The warmth grew hotter, almost uncomfortably so, but he didn't stop. The console pulsed with light, its glow reaching a crescendo. Then, without warning, the light exploded outward, filling the room with a blinding flash. Max shielded his eyes, his heart racing. When the light subsided, he opened his eyes to find the console dark and inert. The energy field had vanished, leaving the room eerily quiet. Did we do it? Max asked, his voice hoarse. Leora examined the console, her expression unreadable. The connection has been severed, she said. The anomaly's influence is contained for now. Max let out a shaky laugh, relief washing over him. Well, that's a relief. I was starting to think I'd have to cancel my Netflix subscription permanently. Leora gave him a curious look. You continue to use humor in the face of adversity. It's a coping mechanism, Max said with a shrug. And let's be honest, this whole situation is kind of ridiculous. Leora's lips twitched, and for the briefest moment, Max thought she might actually smile. As the tension in the room eased, Max couldn't help but wonder what would come next. The anomaly might be contained, but he knew this wasn't the end. Not by a long shot. Max Harper had always prided himself on being an ordinary guy, not too flashy, not too ambitious, just your run-of-the-mill dude navigating life one coffee-stained t-shirt at a time. So when he found himself standing in the middle of his now slightly scorched living room, holding what appeared to be a dormant alien gaming console, while an actual alien woman with 3 eyes examined his toaster. He had to admit, life had taken a hard left turn into the bizarre. "Are you sure it's over?" he asked, his voice a mix of hope and skepticism. Leora straightened, her crystalline scanner glowing faintly as she finished a sweep of the apartment. "The anomaly's connection to this dimension has been severed," she said. "The destabilization has ceased." Max let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "So, no more glowing rifts in the walls? No more shadow monsters? No more feeling like I've been zapped by a cosmic taser?" "That is correct," Leora said, her tone as calm and unflappable as ever. Max grinned, dropping onto the couch with a dramatic sigh. "Well, that's a relief. For a while there, I thought I was going to have to put part-time interdimensional defender on my resume." Leora tilted her head, her third eye focusing on him. "You have shown resilience," she said, "and an unexpected capacity for adaptation." "Is that alien speak for, 'I'm not as useless as I look'?" Max quipped. "It is an acknowledgement of your growth," Leora said. Max blinked, caught off guard by the sincerity in her voice. "Growth, huh?" He looked around the room, taking in the scorch marks, the scattered remnants of last night's chaos, and the faint hum of lingering alien technology. "I guess I have changed a bit. 3 days ago I would have freaked out if my Wi-Fi went down. Now I'm taking on interdimensional anomalies like it's a side gig." "You have embraced your role in this," Leora said, her gaze unwavering, "and in doing so, you have altered the trajectory of your existence." Max chuckled, though there was a note of genuine reflection in his voice. "You make it sound so epic. But yeah, I guess I did step up, didn't I?" Leora nodded, her expression softening. "You did." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the past few days settling over them. Despite the exhaustion, Max felt a strange sense of satisfaction. He'd been thrown into a situation he didn't understand, faced dangers he couldn't have imagined, and somehow come out the other side stronger. "Well," he said, breaking the silence, "what happens now? Do you pack up your space gadgets and beam back to your home planet? Or do we start a sitcom about an alien and a human trying to live together without killing each other?" Leora's lips twitched, and Max could have sworn she was suppressing a smile. "My mission here is complete," she said. "The anomaly is contained, and its influence will fade in time. However, Max prompted, raising an eyebrow. Leora hesitated, her third eye dimming slightly. "Your exposure to the anomaly has left a lasting imprint. Its energy is now a part of you. While dormant, it cannot be entirely eradicated." Max frowned. "So, what does that mean? Am I going to start glowing in the dark or levitating coffee mugs?" "It means you are unique," Leora said carefully. "You may find yourself attuned to phenomena others cannot perceive. But you are stable, for now." "For now?" Max repeated, his tone edging toward panic. "You are not in danger," Leora said quickly. "But you must be vigilant. Should any anomalies arise, you must address them immediately." Max sighed, rubbing his temples. "Great. So I'm a walking interdimensional warning system, just what I always wanted." Leora placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch unexpectedly reassuring. "You will not face it alone," she said. Max looked at her, surprised. "Wait, are you saying you're sticking around?" "For a time," Leora said. "Until I am certain the anomaly's influence has fully subsided." Max grinned. "Well, that's a relief. I was starting to get used to having you around, you know. Plus, someone needs to explain why my toaster keeps sparking every time I use it." Leora gave him a curious look. "You continue to use humor in the face of adversity." "It's a coping mechanism," Max said with a shrug. "And let's be honest, this whole situation is kind of ridiculous." Leora's lips twitched, and for the briefest moment, Max thought she might actually smile. As the tension in the room eased, Max couldn't help but wonder what would come next. The anomaly might be contained, but he knew this wasn't the end. Not by a long shot. Max Harper had always prided himself on being an ordinary guy. Not too flashy, not too ambitious. Just your run-of-the-mill dude navigating life one coffee-stained t-shirt at a time. So when he found himself standing in the middle of his now slightly scorched living room, holding what appeared to be a dormant alien gaming console, while an actual alien woman with 3 eyes examined his toaster, he had to admit, life had taken a hard left turn into the bizarre. "Are you sure it's over?" he asked, his voice a mix of hope and skepticism. Leora straightened, her crystalline scanner glowing faintly as she finished a sweep of the apartment. "The anomaly's connection to this dimension has been severed," she said. "The destabilization has ceased." Max let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. So, no more glowing rifts in the walls, no more shadow monsters, no more feeling like I've been zapped by a cosmic taser? "That is correct," Leora said, her tone as calm and unflappable as ever. Max grinned, dropping onto the couch with a dramatic sigh. "Well, that's a relief. For a while there, I thought I was going to have to put part-time interdimensional defender on my resume." Leora tilted her head, her third eye focusing on him. "You have shown resilience," she said, "and an unexpected capacity for adaptation." "Is that alien speak for, I'm not as useless as I look?" Max quipped. "It is an acknowledgement of your growth," Leora said. Max blinked, caught off guard by the sincerity in her voice. "Growth, huh?" He looked around the room, taking in the scorch marks, the scattered remnants of last night's chaos, and the faint hum of lingering alien technology. "I guess I have changed a bit. 3 days ago I would have freaked out if my Wi-Fi went down. Now I'm taking on interdimensional anomalies, like it's a side gig." "You have embraced your role in this," Leora said, her gaze unwavering. "And in doing so, you have altered the trajectory of your existence." Max chuckled, though there was a note of genuine reflection in his voice. "You make it sound so epic, but yeah, I guess I did step up, didn't I?" Leora nodded, her expression softening. "You did." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the past few days settling over them. Despite the exhaustion, Max felt a strange sense of satisfaction. He'd been thrown into a situation he didn't understand, faced dangers he couldn't have imagined, and somehow come out the other side stronger. "Well," he said, breaking the silence, "what happens now? Do you pack up your space gadgets and beam back to your home planet? Or do we start a sitcom about an alien and a human trying to live together without killing each other?" Leora's lips twitched, and Max could have sworn she was suppressing a smile. "My mission here is complete," she said. "The anomaly is contained, and its influence will fade in time. However, Max prompted, raising an eyebrow. Leora hesitated, her third eye dimming slightly. "Your exposure to the anomaly has left a lasting imprint. Its energy is now a part of you. While dormant, it cannot be entirely eradicated." Max frowned. "So what does that mean? Am I going to start glowing in the dark or levitating coffee mugs?" "It means you are unique," Leora said carefully. "You may find yourself attuned to phenomena others cannot perceive, but you are stable for now." "For now?" Max repeated, his tone edging toward panic. "You are not in danger," Leora said quickly. "But you must be vigilant. Should any anomalies arise, you must address them immediately." Max sighed, rubbing his temples. "Great. So I'm a walking interdimensional warning system. Just what I always wanted." Leora placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch unexpectedly reassuring. "You will not face it alone," she said. Max looked at her, surprised. "Wait, are you saying you're sticking around?" "For a time," Leora said, "until I am certain the anomaly's influence has fully subsided." Max grinned. "Well, that's a relief. I was starting to get used to having you around, you know. Plus, someone needs to explain why my toaster keeps sparking every time I use it."